Howdy, LarkenRose here. Once upon a time, the federal government was largely controlled, well, it still is, but was largely controlled by Democrats and collectivists and basically socialists. Tax and spend everything into oblivion, trying to disarm the population, trying to regulate and control what everybody could say and think and get their tentacles in absolutely everything so that nobody was free to do anything. Now, that obviously is not an exclusively left-wing thing to do, but bear with me. So you get a bunch of Democrats, and you get the people basically openly pushing socialism, even leaning in the direction of communism, which is just the more honest version of socialism. Still insane and anti-human, it's just more honest about the evil it condones. So you get a lot of people in the country who are conservative-leaning, who lots of them are gun owners. They believe in hard work and individually benefiting from your own hard work instead of this collectivist redistribution of wealth and from each according to his ability to each according to his need, all that crap, that people are entitled to all sorts of free goodies just by merely existing, and that the people who work their butts off should be robbed blind by the state to give freebies to everybody else. There were lots of people upset about that and upset about the government trying to disarm them and control them and monitor them and everything else. So, what is a ruling class to do when a significant percentage of the population is kind of mad about the things it's doing and is leaning in the direction of maybe not paying taxes anymore, maybe not obeying the laws, maybe even forcibly resisting? And you start to get a few examples. That Bundy Ranch thing where a bunch of people showed up with guns and said, yeah, feds, we're not going to let you do this again. That's going to be pretty scary for tyrants. For a lot of people, that was just sort of a story of something or other that happened, something about the Bureau of Land Management, whatever. But to those in power, that was a huge event. Because if your subjects stand up to you, especially stand up to you with guns, that's not a good sign if you're a tyrant. Wait a minute, my slaves aren't obeying me. They're not just quietly doing as they're told and paying tribute to we, the elite rulers. They're like disobeying and resisting, and instead of bickering and whining and protesting and begging us to do things differently, they're just not going along with it. They're disobeying. We in the ruling class have to do something about this. Well, what is there to do about it when a huge portion of the population views you with complete contempt and they think you're all corrupt, lying scumbags and you're all power-happy socialists and totally crooked and you're trying to disarm them so you can be even more crooked to them? With that many people recognizing that, what on earth is a ruling class supposed to do about it? Well, you could do a little thing called controlled opposition, where you bring in a would-be savior of that portion of the population. And you tell them, oh no, here's this guy who is your leader and represents what you want, and he's running for office. Golly gee, I hope you don't run off to the voting booth and vote that guy into power. Because, golly, I just don't know what the establishment would do if that rebel, that anti-establishment maverick, if he got into power. I don't know what us poor elites will ever do if that happens. Sound familiar yet? Well, why would they do that? Because then all of a sudden, those tens of millions of people who were thinking and sometimes even talking about maybe we just won't pay taxes to the ruling class anymore. Maybe we'll ignore your laws. Maybe if the ATF tries to enforce this crap, we'll defend ourselves by force if necessary, instead of petitioning and whining you to not do authoritarian BS, we'll just make you not do it by resisting. That's what the Second Amendment is for. Well, if all those people instead can be duped into putting their focus behind a political candidate who's on their side, and he's going to go in and make things right, all of that rebelliousness, all of that tendency to talk about and think about actual resistance and actual disobedience to authoritarian BS kind of fizzles and goes away, doesn't it? I mean, didn't it? Now that that clown Trump is on the throne, how many of those conservatives and gun owners are talking about disobeying and resisting, refusing to pay taxes? No, now our guy is in there. Now the FBI and Patel and Bongino, however the hell you say that lying scumbag, spineless piece of crap's name, they're on our side. They're in there for justice. For some reason, they're still covering up the Epstein files and not doing what they said they were going to do and putting on a big show and acting like the new mafia instead of actually exposing evil. But now there are guys. So we don't need to resist. Now the FBI is on our side. So now anybody who does resist or talks about not paying tribute to the Trump regime, well, now they're the criminals. That's who conservatives should really hate. Is anybody who disobeys the regime now that our guy is sitting on the throne. Do you not get how this game works? Trump was a clown added to the circus for the express purpose of dissipating dissension and disobedience, of taking all those annoyed, frustrated conservatives, and instead of having them lean in the direction of disobedience and not paying, and we're going to work under the table and we're just going to disobey all these stupid laws and maybe even resist when the control freaks try to enforce them, now they're cheering for the new guy on the throne and they're condemning the people who don't. Now, this isn't new. And if the Democrats are like, yeah, haha, you did the same thing. And I remember, was it Obama or Clinton? Makes no difference because it's the same mentality. But all the liberals who imagine themselves to be against the warmongering, which zero liberal politicians actually are, but the voters are, and they're like, oh, we don't like this warmongering all over the place that Bush is doing, or whoever the tyrant this week is. And I remember this. This is a while back. This may have been like 94 or something. I may have still been a statist. But there was a flyover of jets somewhere right after some Democrat president was on there. And some boneheaded liberal idiot, one of them said, oh, I don't like the military doing this, like showing this. We don't like that. And the other one said, it's okay. Those are our jets now. Because people are that easy to dupe. Their rebelliousness is that easy to hijack and redirect if you can dupe them into thinking that the new puppet on the throne gives a crap about them. So, and of course, the warmongering kept going. It ramped up under Obama and Clinton. It's been ramping up the whole time under whoever's there. Doesn't matter. But whoever that anonymous twit was thought, oh, now the giant war machine is on my side. No, it's not, you idiot. The only thing that changed is you stopped being anti-war because you got your political savior on the throne. Now you're pro-war, and when he does war crimes, which Obama did plenty of, you make excuses for it. Maybe you even cheer for it. When he decides that labeling somebody an enemy combatant is a good enough reason to literally just murder a U.S. citizen, which Obama did, well, he's an enemy combatant. We're allowed to do it. You don't need trial. Never mind that whole thing about no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That was out the window under Obama. But don't worry, he's our guy. So when he says that somebody is really, really bad and needs to be murdered by the government without a trial, without evidence, without proof, without a chance to be heard, without a shred of due process, it's okay because he's our guy. And right now you see conservatives doing the same thing. Well, sure, they're deporting these people, no trial, no proof, no evidence, but they're bad, and we know they're bad because our guy tells us they're bad. And so suddenly wiping your butt with the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment and the Sixth Amendment and the Ninth and Tenth and a few others, now it's good because that's our guy doing it. And we know our guy is on our side. He's going after those horrible criminals. Well, how do you know that? Because he says that's who he's going after. Yeah, in the past, have you fallen for that when a Democrat said, oh, it's okay, we're only violently disarming people if they're bad? Or did you say, no, people have a right to be armed, and you don't get to disarm people unless you actually prove they committed a crime? Remember thinking that? Remember saying that? Why don't you say that now? Because you think it's your guy on the throne. Because you fell for the same stupid trick they've been doing forever. Well, I shouldn't call the trick stupid. It keeps working. The same trick they keep doing to stupid people who keep falling for it. Where did the rebelliousness of all those conservatives go now that they think their guy is on the throne? Now that they think the clown on the throne is on their side? Are they talking of refusing to pay taxes? No, they're talking about Trump's going to end the income tax. No, he's not, you idiot. He did strengthen the income tax by making you think there was going to be a political solution. So now instead of talking about actually disobeying, refusing to pay, whatever level of disobedience, whether just sort of quietly doing some things under the table or like open, forcible resistance to authoritarian BS, you're not talking about any of that. You're talking about how much you hope that Trump is going to save the day. He's going to fix this corruption. He's going to lower these taxes. He's going to repeal these laws. He's going to do away with these departments. So you're sitting on your ass like good complacent little slaves, hoping the slave master is going to do what you want. That's what democracy was invented for. Democracy is the best trick that tyrants ever came up with to make their human livestock put up with constantly being abused and robbed and exploited and mistreated, because every once in a while, the ruling class says, oh no, you're really in charge, because we're going to let you decide who's going to manage the plantation. Remind you of anything?
So if they think their vote actually matters, slaves are less likely to revolt.
And it worked. Everybody who put their hope in Trump and who stopped focusing on disobedience and having the people claim their freedom by just acting like they are entitled to freedom, instead of hoping a new master is going to go up there and give his blessing to you being free, and then golly gee, when he didn't, oh, well, he must have been tricked by the libtards, or they bullied him, or he has to do some other stuff first. And yeah, for some reason, his focus is on increasing authoritarianism when it comes to the fear-mongering about immigration. Increasing the warmongering, because now we're scared of Russia or China or Venezuela or whoever it is this week. Okay, but he has to do that. We'll make excuses for the fact that the tyrant we put on the throne is increasing authoritarianism and decreasing freedom. And when he robs the crap out of us, on top of and in addition to how we were already being robbed blind, by the way of his stupid tariffs, which is just the government robbing the American people, we're not going to talk about disobeying. We're not going to talk about resisting or refusing to pay. We're going to make excuses for our own abusers and cheer for our own robbery. And say things, well, you should have bought American anyway. And besides, we can't let China get away. You're falling for the authoritarian shit, and you're making excuses for the master who abuses you. That's what democracy is for. All the dissent, all the rebelliousness, all your talk of freedom, it's out the window because you fell for the bullshit notion that electing just the right master would fix things instead. not disobeying, not even talking of disobeying, not even quietly disobeying, much less forcibly resisting. No, now we have hope in our new leader. And by leader, we mean ruler. The guy who views us and treats us as livestock. And every time he adds new authoritarian power, like every puppet there always does, are you resisting it? Are you talking about how, hey, if you do a warrantless raid of my house because you say there might be an illegal alien in there, I'm going to frickin' shoot you. You don't get to do that. That's what conservatives would say before. If a Democrat said, yeah, we're going to do warrantless searches of houses looking for whatever, drugs, guns, whatever their excuse was, all those conservatives, they wouldn't just be talking about protesting. They'd be talking about disobeying and resisting. They'd be talking about shooting the people with badges coming through their front door without a warrant. Now what are they doing? They're cheering for the idea of thugs with badges without warrants barging into private homes. Because they're that easy to trick. They didn't just stop being rebels. Now they're cheerleaders for the empire and too fucking stupid to notice. That is what you Trump supporters are. You are cheerleaders for the empire and too fucking stupid to notice. And that's exactly what the Democrats who cheered for Obama were. Oh, we don't like all this warmongering and authoritarianism that Bush is doing. Yay, Obama. He's black, so he must like us. There can't be a bad black person, right? Yeah, it doesn't matter the color of the tyrant or the male or female. None of that matters. Every one of these puppets sought out a position from which they can violently rob and dominate you. And they didn't do it for your benefit. Duh. But the Democrats did the same thing. And then Obama increased the warmongering. He increased the violations of due process, the violations of the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Ninth and 10th, forcing people to buy private health insurance. What kind of commie bullshit was that? But don't worry, because the Republicans and the conservatives were there to say, this is socialism, this is wrong, we're not going to stand for this. Until Trump was in power. And you know what Trump said about Obama's socialized BS takeover of healthcare? Well, we're just going to tinker with it a little bit until we can replace it with a better plan. Replace it? Don't you mean just end it and have people be free? Oh, no, that's not what he meant. He's advocating centralized government-controlled healthcare just as much as Obama did. Where are the conservatives screaming socialism? Where are the right-wingers complaining about this horrible injustice and overreach? They shut up because now they're licking the boots of their masters instead of being rebellious, instead of actually being anti-establishment. So the two sets of dupes take turns pretending they're anti-establishment. I mean, it was sort of, if it wasn't so horribly anti-human, it would be hilarious watching all these supposed liberal hippie types thinking that they're being rebellious and virtuous and brave as they advocate the agenda of Big Pharma and condemn anybody who won't take an experimental unnecessary injection. And condemn anyone who doesn't wear a stupid mask that doesn't do any good, or anyone who doesn't hide in their house because stupid politicians told them to. Completely pro-establishment, pro-authoritarian, anti-freedom, start to finish, and the Democrats were still imagining themselves to be the rebellious, brave ones, the virtuous ones who believed in who knows what they pretend. And now you have the conservatives doing the same thing, and then you're going to have the Democrats doing the same thing, and they're going to keep doing it until you stop falling for it. Because whoever the next non-Trump guy on the throne is, next Democrat anyway, is going to say, oh, all that horrible authoritarianism, that's gotta go. And the Democrats will go, yay, that horrible meanie Trump. He was just so mean, but now our guy is on the throne. And they're going to keep violently deporting people, and they're going to keep doing the warmongering, and they're going to keep violently enforcing all manner of BS arbitrary state fascism all over the place. And then all you Democrats are going to make excuses for it because it'll be your guy doing it. So you don't need to rebel against that, right? Now it's your plantation manager. That's the guy you chose. So why would you disobey him? Why would you rebel against it when it's your guy on the throne? And right now we're in the phase of conservatives doing that. They fell for a trick that was designed to take their rebelliousness and their disobedience to arbitrary authoritarian power and turn it into bootlicking slave think. And that's exactly what you see coming out of all the Trumpites now. Well, except for the ones who've started to figure it out and realize he's not any different. He's deep state, he's warmonger, he's control freak, he's socialist, he's a New York liberal, and has been the whole stinking time. So some of them at least have learned their lesson, I hope. How long that lasts remains to be seen. But any of them still making excuse for Trump, this is what we voted for, then you're a slave and an idiot. If you voted for the absolutely arbitrary dictatorial crap that Trump is doing right now, where he thinks he should be able to do absolutely anything based on zero law, well, we're going to read this statute, pretend it says something that it obviously doesn't, and then claim unilateral dictatorial power, not even by way of Congress, just executive order. We're going to cite that old statute that obviously doesn't apply, and then lock people up and haul them out of the country with no trial, no evidence, no proof, no due process. Nothing like that. Not a peep from the conservatives. If Democrats were doing that, you'd be absolutely shitting yourselves. Righteous indignation running out your ears. Instead, you're licking the boots of the piece of shit that's doing this. And all his sub-pieces of shit. Patel, Bondi, Bongino, or however you say his freaking name, who are all actively covering up the Epstein evidence. Yeah, those ones. How long are you going to make excuses for it? And if they start to do unconstitutional things, I mean, if they keep doing it, because they have been the whole stinking time, at what point do you say, okay, maybe we should be not just protesting, but actually resisting and disobeying? Or will you ever do that if you think the clown on the throne is your guy? Or will you forever function like slaves? Because right now I see a lot of conservatives thinking more like pathetic, submissive slaves than the Democrats are, which is pretty freaking sad, given how often they do that. Where'd your rebelliousness go? Where's your anti-authoritarian? It's okay. This king likes us. Could you really not see through that trick? You really don't know how that works? All the times they've done it? And if you haven't seen the movie Jones Plantation, holy crap, go watch the movie Jones Plantation.
We think the slaves are about to start some trouble. We're feeling a bit stuck up under Mr. Jones's thumb here. We need to put on a little show.
That's why you're here, Earl.
You two are gonna have a little contest to see who can win the hearts and minds of the human livestock out there.
If you did see it and then still voted for Trump, go watch it again, like 15 times in a row, until you recognize yourself in the crowd of slaves, I mean workers, cheering for their own abuser, because that's you. And it's the Democrat voters too. You fell for this. You are cheering for your abuser. You didn't just get quiet and stop resisting. You became cheerleaders of the state. Conservatives, when did you decide that it was okay to cheer for socialism and tax increases and federal spending increases and increased unconstitutional everything under the sun. When did that become okay? Oh, it was when you elected your guy to the throne. That's how that works. That's why they let you vote at all. Because they know full well that if they let the human livestock vote, the human livestock will imagine that they have some say in the matter. Maybe even that they consented to it, and that the slave plantation manager is representing them when he does what he does. Any conservatives out there with a spine anymore who actually believe in freedom? Or are you all now bootlickers? Let me know in the comments.